At any rate, if you will call the roll, Diane, for establish a quorum.
Cox.
Present.
Pratt.
Here.
Castanis.
Here.
Collin. Panay.
Here.
Dickinson. Yee.
Here.
Toby Johnson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Good afternoon, everyone. This will be, session will be telecast on channel, what is that channel?
14.
14, and will be rebroadcast again on Saturday at noon. And we also have a VHS copy available to check out from any of the branch libraries within the county. Anyone in the audience who plans to address the commission, we would appreciate it if you'll fill out a speaker identification slip, present it to the lady to my left here in white. And when you do speak to the commission, we would appreciate your being directly between the two microphones and addressing the board at that particular level, so that we not only hear it at the board level, but throughout the chambers it will carry your voice. Our first item of action, or of the agenda today, is an executive session which has been called in order to discuss certain personnel matters, and I'll request the members of the commission, as well as three staff persons, Mr. Edgar from City of Sacramento, City Manager, and Mr. Bob Smith from County of Sacramento, County Executive, and Mr. Lee Elam from County of Sacramento to join with us. He's the County Counsel. And we'll go to session in the conference room on the second floor.
Second floor.
The Sacramento Cable Television, Metropolitan Cable Television Commission. We've been in personnel session, during which time we have considered some specific personnel items, and we have returned for the purpose of taking action. Our action is with reference to our Executive Director, Mr. Esposto, Richard Esposto, and we have a motion that's going to be phrased by our counsel, Mr. Lee Elam, and I guess we have to have a member of the commission make the motion after you've closed it, and then to get a second for it.
Yes, Mr. Chairperson, there are actually two motions I believe the commission desires to make. The first, and you ought to take them separately, the first is a motion to offer to Mr. Esposto an employment contract that would be for a term of 18 calendar months at his current salary. The contract would include a provision that states as one of his duties enforcement of the regulations of the commission. The contract would contain a clause to the effect that if the executive director is not notified 90 days in advance of the termination of the contract that it will be terminated, then the contract is automatically renewed for a 12-month period. The contract would also contain terms to the effect that it may be terminated during its term for cause, or it may be terminated by the commission without cause. But should it be terminated by the commission without cause, the director would be entitled to payment of the unclaimed salary, that is, the unearned salary, during the entire remainder of the term of the contract from the date of termination. The executive director would have the right to terminate the contract upon 30 days' notice without penalty. That, as I understand it, would be your first motion.
Mr. Chair, also move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Panay, seconded by Mrs. Collin. The motion has been stated by County Counsel. Any questions by members of the commission? If not, I would call for a voice vote, please.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Yeah, roll call.
Sorry. Cox.
Aye.
Pratt.
Aye.
Castanis.
Aye.
Collin.
Yes.
Panay.
Aye.
Dickinson.
Aye.
Yee.
Aye.
Toby Johnson.
Yes. Now, the
Motion
question
carries.
would be to you, Mr. Esposito, as to your response to the offer and proposed term of office.
You're asking for a response right now on the cuff or at this?
Mr. Elam, again, you'll have to advise us as to whether this is an immediate response or...
Well, I think the commission would like an immediate response if Mr. Esposito is prepared to offer it. If Mr. Esposito would like time to consider the proposal, the commission can consider his request for time.
Mr. Chairman, what I would request at this time is that we proceed through the agenda, and as we proceed through the agenda, let me process the criteria, the statement that Mr. Elam has just made, and I'll respond to you at the end of the meeting.
Is that agreeable with members?
That's agreeable.
Okay, there seems to be a general consensus that that's acceptable, so we'll proceed to item 2.
Was there a second? I'm confused. Weren't there two motions?
There was a motion with
No,
a
just so we can- at the
positive
end of the
vote,
meeting.
and we didn't move to a second motion because we're going to give you time to... Mr. Elam, do you have any further
Yeah,
comment?
I believe it was the commission's desire that Mr. Esposito respond to that offer of employment before
That's right.
the other motion is made.
I'm sorry, now I understand.
Okay, thank you.
All right, going to item 2, which is the amendment of retainer agreement of Brenton Blair Esquire and retention of interim legal counsel to serve as general counsel, and the required actions are to consider and approve the amended retainer agreement, consider and approve the interim counsel agreement.
Mr. Chairman and members, at your last meeting, you terminated the status of our general counsel as a policy decision. Your action today would implement that change in Mr. Blair's contract. So item 2A, sub 1, is to reflect the changes you made last month in his contract.
Any questions by members of the commission?
I have a question. Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I've got a question. I don't understand A1. I guess I had received this information late, or
Just
last
clarify
night.
that Mr. Blair's retainer agreement specified general counsel duties as well as litigation duties. What this action is doing is specifically removing general counsel duties from his retainer. I would deem it administrative relative to your actions, your policy decision last month.
And where is that item before us?
Item 2?
Which item is it?
2A.
So this is what we received yesterday? Item 2A, addendum?
That is a memorandum from the county council as it applies to item 2B.
So where is...
Amended retainer agreement.
2A.2 is Elam.
I'm
2A.
sorry. Yes, 2A.2 is the memorandum for Mr. Elam that was distributed yesterday.
Okay, and what are we talking about, Mr. Blair's
Yes.
contract?
2A sub 1.
2A sub 1, and
Is
where
to-
is that retainer agreement?
has in this
strike it out of the agreement.
Page 1, isn't this it, the agreement that we have here, attached to...
Rich?
All I have, Mr. Chair, is just, I have in my packet a request for proposal for general counsel. I don't
The
have...
retainer agreement is not in your packet. All we were doing was recommending that you approve the amendment to the retainer agreement, removing general counsel as a specified service of Mr. Blair.
There's no separate
There
agreement.
is no separate.
Well, I'd have to see the agreement. I don't know what else is in the agreement that I didn't vote on the original agreement, and I don't have a copy of that, so I'd like to put that item over until I get a
we can
copy
put
of
that
the
over then,
original
and
agreement.
We'll provide you with a copy of Mr. Blair's current agreement, and you can see that we'll highlight the section where we're saying we're taking out the words general counsel, or general counsel, and I think are the exact words being removed.
Saying we'll continue it under your recommendation.
If that's what Mr. Panay would like.
I would
have an
like to
objection.
request that until I see a copy of the agreement, so we can see what else is in the agreement.
And we don't have any available material today.
Not today, no.
On item,
Any other members have questions on this particular part of the agenda?
I would also like to see the package.
on item 2A, though, I do have another alternative to that
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Item 2A is the approving interim counsel. That was a staff report provided to you by the county council.
On that point, I've read through the report, Mr. Chair and members, and I have an alternative to suggest. In this whole debate, I found it necessary to call and to find where other legal counsel may be in this state and nation. I was informed by people that there's no replacement for Mr. Blair. Our executive director stated that, and one or two other people. I found it necessary to make phone calls to different legal counsel who I do not know, but that come recommended. One legal counsel that has probably, out of the 5 firms in the United States, the most credibility in this area, and has probably, without a doubt, represents the most cities and counties in this particular specialty area of cable, is a firm, and let me get the name, the firm of Rattan and Tucker. I provide you, since I only got this other document on McDonough Holland and Ellen last night, I provide you now with information on this firm, and would request that we look at this information. I'm concerned, members, that we do not choose a law firm from the Sacramento area. I've been a big proponent of trying to do everything that we can to help our local business, and our local businesses part law firms as well. However, in this case, I believe that local law firms are too entwined in this whole issue to do real justice to our commission at this point in time. I believe that we need a firm for the interim period that specializes in just this matter that we are undertaking as the Cable Commission. The firm that I've put forward here is a very reputable firm. William Marty Corina is the principal senior partner in that firm. Mr. Espasto knows Mr. Marty Corina, and I believe that as one of the 5 firms in the United States who specialize in this area of law, that they would do us a lot of justice for the 4-month interim period. This firm represents over 25 cities and counties in California. They're in the midst of putting together a joint powers agency in the city and county of Santa Cruz with 5 different local agencies. And I believe that the reputation and the expertise of this firm will do us, and most importantly, the consumers, the most good for the interim period. I would urge us all to look through this firm's background, and I would stress once again that I believe it is a mistake to move forward with a local law firm. I believe that there has been too much that has gone on from the original franchise awarding on this franchisee, and I'd urge us to look beyond the borders of the city and the county for that purpose. I'd be glad to answer any questions, but I do believe that a 4-month interim law firm should be one that specializes in this area. Because as we've stated, and our executive director has stated most aptly, we need someone who is thoroughly grounded on these areas. We have before us a very interesting position. One position is the rate regulation coming up. Another position is that this firm is selling a piece of itself, and that brings up a whole nother set of legal criteria. I've been thoroughly briefed by the executive director, and so I would like some discussion on this matter.
The members of the commission wish to make comment?
I have a question whether, Josh, you had gotten any fix on what Rutan and Tucker would charge, whether, on what basis they would be available, whether there's attendance contemplated by them at our regular meetings and travel, which we would have to reimburse for that. I mean, what kind, has there been any discussion that you've had regarding terms and conditions?
I had brief discussions with the senior partner involved. And I apologize for the pronunciation. I'm the last one that should be apologizing for pronunciations, but Mr. Marty Corina, and Mr. Marty Corina has told me that he would be willing at a moment's notice to be involved in this issue. And come in on our monthly meetings and have meetings with the executive director as soon as we would like him to. On the terms and conditions, I have told him that the proposal in front of us is $156 an hour, I believe, and Mr. Marty Corina said that they would be willing to look at that level or look at a retainer level with a certain number of meetings per month in it, any way the commission would like to do it. I should also state that this firm was the lead counsel on the major lawsuit that came out of this body out of Santa Cruz and 2 other jurisdictions. That I believe would serve us well. The background of this firm is substantial. And I really want to stress to the members, as I've watched this process, I believe that we'd be doing an injustice to bring in a local firm at this time. It may be that the commission would like to do that down the road, but in this critical moment, I believe that we need strong, vital representation, and I don't believe, because of the interlegal community, the community that we see in the legal profession in Sacramento right now with this issue, I don't believe it's advisable that we should move forward with a local firm.
Okay, and I would like to just offer a couple of thoughts. I obviously voted against letting Brent go at this time as general counsel. I thought that because of all of the issues that faced us, that the timing on that was extremely poor timing from the standpoint of our needs as a commission, but more importantly from the needs of the community. I still feel that what we should do is not is continue through this critical period with Mr. Blair in both capacities, and not go out for the RFP until afterwards. If there's a question that you do not want this person as general counsel after that, then I think that action should have been taken then, not now when we're faced with such extremely difficult problems. The transfer of ownership problem, which you alluded to, as well as the rate structure and the regulations that we have. So I just have to tell you that I have a problem with the whole way we are proceeding during these months. If you had brought this up after September or even October, perhaps then I would have been much more interested in listening to the needs of maybe general counsel being different from a litigator. But I'm not interested in, still not interested in that at this point, Josh. Although I will understand, your concern for perhaps other reasons that you've expressed in terms of local. But I really think we should have waited to go with an RFP, waited to take these steps if they were necessary to take at a time when we weren't faced with such severe problems and the community wasn't faced with such a tough choice.
Mr. Chair, I'd like the body to focus on the task at hand, and the task at hand is to retain new general counsel, and we
retain
have interim general counsel for the 4-month period.
Well, I can make a comment. I'm troubled by this, not because Rutan and Tucker isn't an excellent law firm. I think they are. I don't know this gentleman in particular, but they certainly have a good reputation. You know, the McDonough firm certainly has an excellent reputation in the legal community in this town. Harriet Steiner certainly is a very reputable and competent lawyer. What troubles me about this, I guess, is the same thing that troubles Isla, that here we sit trying to make a decision about who to hire on the basis of who's called whom, or who had the opportunity to catch up to so-and-so who might fit in for a few months. It's not the way, in my judgment, to hire a lawyer under these circumstances for this commission. I'd be much more inclined to retain Mr. Blyer for the interim period in the general counsel position while we move forward on some of these critical issues, and then move aggressively to recruit new general counsel where there's a fair and open opportunity for whoever wishes to compete for that to be able to do so.
Mr. Chair, question for legal counsel, and maybe he can refer to our rules of procedure. What is deemed a majority on a vote? Is it those present and voting a majority, or is it those who are seated on this commission?
It's a majority of the occupied seats on the commission.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Are there other comments from members of the commission? Well, I'll add my comment. I strongly feel that local attorneys are objective, that they're skilled. I don't know specifics about the number of cable matters that have been under the general purvey of the firm of McDonough, Holland, and whatever. However, I do know this lady has appeared before us in the past, the attorney that is being named here, and whether it be she or someone else from the firm, I think that I would like to see a local person who understands and has dealt with the community needs of Sacramento and the county working on this matter. I'm sure that she'll have available to her excellent resources, and I'd like to stay with the recommendation. Is there a motion then? And, oh, Mr. Costanis has a comment.
Yeah, let me express my view. I've been on this commission from day one, and I'm very familiar with the litigation that we've gone through. And I'm very comfortable with the recommendation of the county council, and I think that the recommendation before us from staff is certainly an interim position to be in, and I'd like to move staff recommendation in that regard to me.
Okay. Second.
Staff recommendation to hire a local attorney.
To go with the interim, yes, local attorney.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded to employ the services of the attorney designated by McDonough law firm. Any other questions? We'll call a roll for a vote, please.
Cox.
Aye.
Pratt.
Aye.
Costanis.
Aye.
Collin.
Abstain.
Panay.
No.
Dickinson.
No?
Yee. Toby Johnson.
Yes.
Motion fails.
I'd like to move.
The motion
Well, wait a minute.
fails.
No.
We have a...
What
That
was-
motion
Explain
failed.
what's the
Mr. Chair.
quorum again, please? What's the quorum again?
The
Four. I mean, five.
Five.
We need 5 votes to carry a motion, is
Takes
that right?
five. There's 7 of us present now.
That's not the same thing I think I heard Lee say. Did you say all?
I said-
You meant
It's
it had to
four-
be
It's a majority
of 8.
of the seats
Okay.
on the commission. And if there were only 4 affirmative votes, the motion failed.
Yeah, right.
So you need 5 votes to get anything passed this afternoon?
Yeah.
Correct.
And you need a lawyer this afternoon, whoever you appoint.
I will, we do need a lawyer. I will change from Colin.
You what? What did you say?
I will change from abstain to yes.
Okay. On this vote?
Yes.
So that moves the matter then. That gives us the necessary 5.
Motion carries with that change in Isla Collins' vote.
Richard, is there an item on the agenda later to schedule a special meeting of the commission?
Yes, sir, there is.
Okay.
I do want to announce that prior to Mr. Esposito giving a response, we do have two people that want to speak on item 1, and I'll entertain their comments before we hear your response on this when we get to the time of on the agenda where this is appropriate. Okay.
Item 2B is a staff report back to you at staff's initiation. At the last commission meeting, your decision to terminate general counsel didn't provide any direction. I'm seeking from you a direction on how you'd like to proceed, and I prepared a draft RFP and ask your direction on within that if you want to proceed with that. If you have any guidance for things as far as distribution of the RFP, evaluation criteria of respondents, and how you'd like to structure an interview panel. You've made now an interim council decision that gives you a little breathing room, but I wanted to provide you with appropriate staff work. The action is at your discretion.
I still have to have you repeat that, Rich.
It's the RFP.
The RFP on item 2B.
To get a permanent attorney.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll kick this off. I mean, it's having just said, I think we need to move aggressively to have more permanent counsel. I want to see us get this RFP out, and I think, Rich, you've got to look quite extensively, though, in order to attract for us the best possible set of candidates. I know there are trade magazines and publications.
But the type of guidance I would like would be, do you want a nationwide distribution, a statewide distribution, or something less? That would be of assistance.
I think given my own preference would be, given the nature of this subject matter, that you use a national distribution, but that's just my own feeling.
I concur.
I agree.
Okay, I'll support that.
Move it.
Yeah, I'll move it.
Second?
Maybe we put some other details in terms of initial interviewing, and applicant response, evaluation. Do you wish to do that yourself? Would you like to have an independent consultant firm do that for you, or any other combination? And, again, staff direction. We haven't had much experience or policy in this. How would you like to proceed?
Toby?
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
I would like to propose that we hire an independent body to screen this down to about the top 10 candidates, something like that. And then the council step in and get it down to the final 3 or make the final selection or whatever. But I don't know that if you get, say, 100 applications,
Whether we would have to get an RFP for that service.
I would.
Mr. Chairman, let me make a suggestion that you nominate 3 people from this board to screen the applicants and bring back to the board the top 3 with a final recommendation.
I agree. I think a subcommittee of the commission members could do that.
Well, it will be as objective as we can be. We'll ask Mr. Castanas, Mr. Rich Pratt, and Mr. Dickinson.
Roger, yes.
Is that agreeable?
You bet.
Mr. Chairman, would be your decision that that subcommittee would also work on refining the RFP evaluation criteria?
To select
Or do you want to do that now as a policy matter?
I think they should work it out and then seek out whatever counsel they need in order to get it accomplished. And
We are going to have on board, are we not, interim legal counsel?
That's
Why don't you meet with
Yes.
the interim legal counsel and as a committee, could you do that?
Yes,
And-
but I don't know if you want to do that if the
Because they
interim,
might want to apply.
wanna bid.
Okay, you're right, can't do that.
It'd be fair to say your direction is the staff work with the subcommittee to
Yes.
finalize the RFP, come up with a
Yeah.
plan.
perhaps county council or
Yeah, I was just gonna
city
say that.
attorney would cooperate with us wherever he went.
I'll offer
Wherever
that,
we went.
that
Where are they?
Oh, yeah, where are they when you need them?
the
Those
county council
lawyers.
was given a draft of this RFP and had the opportunity to provide input.
okay, you need anything more?
No, that's sufficient staff direction.
3, Sacramento Cable Television Transfer.
You need a-
Excuse
a
me, we
motion?
need a,
Oh,
There was a motion, wasn't
committee
there?
of 3.
Oh, I tried.
I was designated to appoint.
I seconded it.
Oh, didn't we get a vote on that first?
That-
God, I thought we did.
Call for voice, please.
Yeah, we have a vote, please, by voice, by person, voice by person.
Did we have a motion by
I
Dickinson?
I made the motion to
Second by Mr. Pratt.
Thank you very much. Cox?
Aye.
Pratt?
Aye.
Costanis?
Aye.
Collin?
Yes.
Panay?
Aye.
Dickinson?
Aye.
Toby Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Did you have a couple of speakers?
Well, are you ready to go with yours, Rich?
I would prefer, sir, to wait till the end of the
You wanted
agenda.
to wait
Let's
till the
work our way
close of
through the
this
business
thing.
items.
We'll have the speakers just prior to the time. But we did have a speaker on 2A, and thank you for reminding me of that. Mr. Finley, or Kendra Finley, rather. I'm sorry, Kendra, that I overlooked your,
That's okay.
this was on the retainer agreement for interim or...
Yes. I'm Kendra Finley. I live in Southland Park Hills. I've only recently become aware of some of the issues and controversies that you've been embroiled in lately. And I have some concerns as a consumer about how things have been handled by the Commission. The cable company leaders are not in business because they're great public benefactors, so philanthropic that they provide their service out of the goodness of their hearts. The cable company is a business and it exists to make money. That's its job, and I accept that. What worries me is your job. From my perspective, you exist largely to serve as a watchdog to protect my interests as a consumer. The composition of the Commission reinforces that notion and is obviously intended to represent a broad segment of consumers. If, from your perspective, your primary purpose is to make it as easy as possible for the cable company to do business, then I'm really worried. Some of you seem to believe that your staff are too contentious and aggressive in their pursuit of good quality, economic, and honest service to the consumer by the cable company. As good public officials who surely keep attuned to public sentiment, you must know that we, the public, frequently feel pretty contentious ourselves toward the cable company. If your staff are aggressive in their dealings with the company leaders, that would seem to me an attribute. I have a sense from what I've read that the cable company's leaders can take care of themselves and are fully capable of dealing with a little aggression. Sorry, I have a cold. Based on the information I've gathered, it also appears that there has been considerable behind-the-scenes maneuvering by company officials and some members of the Commission, some of which, it seems, was never intended to see the light of day. While I realize that's probably standard procedure, as a consumer I don't like it much. It seems to me the dealings between the cable company and the Commission should be very public. Before I conclude, I'd like to add one thing regarding these documents that I've obtained on this issue. The contents of some of the letters indicate to me a definite need for a strong, aggressive, and yes, even a contentious regulatory body. One letter from General Manager Ruckert to Mr. Costanis states that Mr. Ruckert believes contentious and adversarial attitudes on the part of the Commission staff, quote, causes confusion and agitation to our subscribers, unquote. To me, that statement is paternalistic and patronizing. If you do your job and the cable company does its job clearly, honestly, and openly, I don't think most consumers would have too much trouble understanding what's going on. From my point of view, although based on your actions today it may be too late, I say it's time to get Mr. Contentious back on board so that he and Mr. Aggressive can get back up to speed as soon as possible. I'd like the assurance that two people who know what they're doing are working to keep the cable company honest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Finley.
Can't beat that.
Okay, we're going on to item 3. We've got the transfer of ownership item.
Mr. Chairman, members, Chairman Johnson was provided documentation from Sacramento Cable that a transfer of ownership, appears to be a transfer of ownership, is in process within their corporate hierarchy. You need to get more detailed and definitive input from your interim counsel, but you are up against a clock in the franchise ordinance that you must respond to their notice within 60 days. So I provided you with the copies of the franchise ordinance, and it's my interpretation, subject of course to legal confirmation, that the notice from Sacramento Cable does trigger the ordinance provisions. And in consultation with County Council, it's recommended that you schedule a special meeting in approximately 2 weeks to have your interim counsel report back to you in depth on the issues before you. And then at that time also schedule a notice public hearing, which then could be at your next regularly scheduled meeting to address and comply with your own ordinance provisions.
Okay, the request is to schedule a meeting for 2:30 on March 18th.
I would so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, if we could adjust the, not having cleared all your calendars at this time, if your motion could be at that date or the soonest date that we can get a quorum, it would be appreciated. That way we wouldn't have to call another special meeting to set the special
Maybe we can
meeting.
get a poll here today. Are you
I don't know
aware of
without
what?
my calendar, but I'm willing to clear my calendar.
Set the date. Set the date.
Is there a date sooner? Is there a date sooner, everyone?
Yeah.
The concern was that your interim counsel would have an opportunity to review the documents and get to speed, and that was the recommendation.
Well, we'll go with the 18th. If we
Yeah.
find that there's a cloud on it, we'll have to
I put
reset
that on
it.
my calendar already, so I know it's good.
Okay, we have a motion then for
Yes.
move second.
Yes.
For March 18th, the 2:30.
Mr. Chair, I may be out of town, but it depends if I can reschedule this meeting. But
Well,
if I can't reschedule, I won't be here. But if I can, I will certainly be here.
we hope you'll be here. We call a roll for a vote.
Thank you. Cox.
Aye.
Pratt.
Aye.
Castanis.
Aye.
Collin.
Yes.
Panay.
Aye.
Dickinson.
Aye.
Toby Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving to item 5. Wait a minute, item 4, pardon me. Sacramento Cable Television Enforcement Hearing, probable cause, adopt resolution at commission discretion.
This is a staff report back that your action last month relative to the general counsel had me make a decision to put the enforcement hearing in a standstill mode. So that is, we have an agreement now with the cable company that the enforcement hearing is frozen where it is upon, I believe, 30 days notice to reactivate it. I've also made the statement that it's in its staff's opinion that without Mr. Blair to assist in pursuing this enforcement issue, that it may not be effective use of public funds to continue. That's advisory.
Excuse
from
me,
you.
Rich, are you Penny Costa?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm having a bad day here. It's been
Want me
a
to search through
long,
those?
long day, and I regret, I'm going to have to ask the commission to listen to this lady. She has some comments in item 3, and I'm sorry that I
Oh,
neglect.
that's fine. With regard to the meeting that has been scheduled for March 18th, I'm Penny Costa, and I'm with Baker and Hostetler Counsel for Sacramento Cable. And we'd like to let you know that, of course, we'll be attending and participating at that meeting, but to make it as useful and effective for everybody as it can be, if there's information that you would like to have in advance of the meeting, if you'll let us know, we'll be happy to provide it for you.
Mrs. Costa is legal counsel for the Cable Commission, or the Sacramento Cable and
Yes.
For Sacramento Cable?
Sacramento
Yes.
Cable.
Mr. Elam?
Yeah.
Certainly.
We thank you for your being present, and I apologize again
Oh,
for...
thank you.
Yeah.
On item 4, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would move forward with the action.
Let me call on the item 4. There's a person who wants to, can I ask Mr. Calhoun to come forward if he had comments on item 4 before we make the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My concern about the item is that there apparently has been some rules broken by Sacramento Cable. They need to be held accountable for those actions, and that the commission take those steps necessary to hold them accountable. I'm aware of the time factor that Mr. Espacio has put forward is in keeping with the legal time factors. But I would just encourage that as regulators, I would hope in my interest as a subscriber that you're taking my interest completely to heart, that Sacramento Cable is not going to be able to continue to rip off the subscribers in this town, and that you'll take action as quickly as possible to prevent that from happening. Thank you.
We'll take all steps possible to make sure everybody conforms with the regulations.
Were there any
Item
other
4,
speakers?
then you have an action motion.
Are any other speakers?
No, that's the last one.
Okay, I'd like to move that we instruct our new legal counsel to take swift action and enforce what this body had passed in December, and I so move.
Okay, motion
I
is...
would like to point out that it has previously been stated that since this was also could be termed litigation and was clearly within the litigation, that we were proceeding with it as if it were litigation. Is that true?
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me say to Ms. Cullen that we had an agreement with Mr. Blyer, to my understanding, that he would in fact handle this particular case.
Right.
For whatever reason, somehow the word arbitration aspect was taken out of not knowing whether or not it was arbitration or whether it was litigation or whether it was general counsel work. It was my understanding that this would be treated as a litigation. And I think that under the circumstances we ought to go ahead with Mr. Blyer using this as litigating this under the arbitration end of the business.
Could I speak to my motion?
Yes.
Just
Was there a
briefly.
second?
Well, I'll speak to the
He wants
body.
to clarify his motion first.
I want to make sure that everyone understands that that this body took an action, and we intended to move forward with that action. And in fact, we intended to move forward with Mr. Blyer. But since our executive director has come back and informed us that this was arbitration, not litigation, then that's...
Excuse me, Mr. Panay, the word arbitration hasn't come from me.
Oh, it hasn't? Well,
sir.
Then what was the lack of...
This is quasi-judicial, isn't it?
Enforcement here.
Right. The clarification, if you wish to proceed that way, is whether or not administrative proceedings or quasi-judicial proceedings fit within your statement last month as litigation or not. The definition I used for litigation in trying to get to this point was whether or not there was a lawsuit filed. And if it's your policy direction that quasi-judicial proceedings are litigation, then Mr. Blair would have your authorization to proceed.
Well, let's just make sure everyone understands. I'll move that, but let's make sure everyone understands this commission in no way asked anyone to stop that proceeding. And in fact, with our vote, we are moving it forward, and I'll do that right now with Mr. Blyer. Do I have a second?
Yeah. Moved and seconded, moved by Mr. Panay, initially seconded by Mrs. Collin, I guess, was it?
Yes, fine.
And with that, we'll ask for a roll call for a vote.
Collin?
Yes.
Cox?
Aye.
Pratt?
Aye.
Castanis?
Aye.
Panay?
Aye.
Dickinson?
Aye.
Toby Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving to item 5, the staff status report.
Mr. Chairman, there's no action items on the staff status report. I'll distribute that to you after the meeting for your review.
Okay, item 5 will be received and filed, and we'll move on to item 6, which is well, let's see.
Request
Brian
to
Gruber, did you
cancel.
have something that you wanted to bring in? You apparently, if there was nothing to be reported, you didn't feel a need to report. Yeah. Okay, moving on to item 6 then. Notice public hearing, basic service tier rate determination. This was continued from January 6th and February 3rd meetings, and the action would be to adopt a resolution canceling the hearing. You want to offer your comments on this, Rich?
Mr. Chairman, there have been several actions that impact your rate determination and since our last meeting. One is that until this week, the cable company had not responded to staff's January 24th request for information, and that was hand-delivered by the cable company this Monday. So staff has not had the opportunity to review their response in order to make a determination to you today. Secondly, the FCC last week announced changes in the benchmark proceedings and also announced changes to clarify regulations. The detail of that has not been provided yet. That is, the text of the FCC actions are not there. Thirdly, in my concern, and I feel a very difficult job of proceeding on this in this analysis without legal help, without legal analysis, I was uncomfortable continuing. I sought from Mr. Blair, because of my concern for where the community might stand, in that we had initiated a 90-day tolling period, review period, that expires on March 15th. If, in fact, rates could have been implemented to the detriment of the community by not taking our action, by you're not taking any action. With Mr. Blair's assistance in analyzing the current FCC regulations, I'm comfortable in saying that there is no damage to the community, no harm done, but you're taking no action at this time. And in fact, you have until August 31st to make a rate determination, and at that time, if you so wish, recommend or implement a rate which would be something different than the rates currently or about to be put in effect by the cable company, and at that time order a refund. In effect, I'm saying that your rate determination is, if you wish, or can be also placed on a standstill.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Esposito by members of the commission?
Mr. Esposito, when does the 7% go into effect as directed by the FCC?
The FCC's language said mid-May. We haven't seen the exact dates yet, but it looks like mid-May.
Could I ask a question about that? It'd be 7% of whatever is being charged now, but we can preserve our rights until the end of August to say whether the rates that are being charged now are really where
Actually,
they
I
should
believe-
be, and then you can recover all of that, including if you've been doing the 7%?
Right. It would probably make for a more complicated analysis because of all the time factors that are applied. But my understanding is that up until August 31st, you can make a rate determination retroactive to September 1st of last year and direct the cable company to make adjustments coming forward at each different step along the way, whether the cable company implemented rates, whether there was an effective date, freeze order trigger, or whether or not the new rates would apply. I'll clarify that the FCC language is that the 7% applies to their benchmarks, and how that flows through the analysis is, right now, we don't know. We have to wait and see what the benchmarks say and then ripple the numbers on through. The FCC also said they will be providing incentives for the cable industry to improve their infrastructure, and they've made other statements that they're going to clarify regulations. I use the term they're going to clarify regulations. The staff say that that's designed to address some of the loopholes that I talked to you last month about. I don't think the loopholes necessarily apply here, but the text of the FCC's regs, I can't say exactly that it equates to 7%. It's 7% of the benchmark, but how that calculates out is a little early.
Okay. The
What you have-
FCC, my understanding, FCC is really going to do some, are they really going to do some local workshops or?
Yes, the FCC is very interested in getting local government on board in their rate regulation process. Next week, they're going to host a regional workshop in Chicago. I mentioned to you a couple of meetings ago about a workshop scheduled in the Bay Area. There's one now scheduled for the middle of April. There will probably be 400 or 500 local regulators attending, and at that time, the FCC will take us through their recommended analysis. That's another reason why it's appropriate at this time, I think, to reschedule at a later date your currently scheduled public hearing.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Josh.
Well, I'd like to know from the cable operator what the excuse is for not having gotten this document to us in time. Let's hear it.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, my name is Kevin Jones. I'm the controller for Sacramento Cable. Just to kind of bring you up to date, I did stand before you approximately a month ago at the meeting and indicate that I hope to have the response to Mr. Esposito in about 2 weeks. Unfortunately, upon really digging into the situation, I found out that it was a little bit more complex than I had anticipated, and it took approximately 3 weeks to get the response. I did finalize that response on Friday the 25th, I believe. I called Mr. Esposito and asked him if he would like it delivered Friday afternoon or mailed. Mr. Esposito indicated that he had no plans whatsoever to review that over the weekend, and Monday morning was sufficient. So I personally delivered it to him Monday morning at their offices.
That's correct. And I appreciate that. It didn't get lost in the mail that way.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, just a follow-up question. So your excuse for not getting this to this body on time was that it was more complicated than you had anticipated when you first committed that to this body?
Well, I don't know that it's an excuse necessarily. When asked last meeting what I thought the timing would be, I suggested or hoped that I could perform the calculations in 2 weeks. A number of things occurred during that period of time, one of which was a key manager in the organization that I needed to work in conjunction with was called away due to a family illness, and I did not have the availability of that individual. So because of that and a couple of other factors, I was unable to complete it within the 2-week period of time that I had suggested. I did complete it as promptly as I could, and I did get to Mr. Espasto as quickly as possible.
Another question, Mr. Chair, for our Executive Director. Explain to me again when they were supposed to do this.
Let me give you the process since it began. Your certification was approved on October 7th. The cable company was noticed by letter from the chairman on that date with their initial submission on November 15th. The initial submission, as we reported to you, was received on the 15th, was incomplete. And at that time, it did not contain one key element, was an auditor's statement and several other aspects. The cable company's transmittal said it was incomplete.
Okay, hold on right there. Then question, Mr. Chair, if you would. A question is that key elements, did your company just miss a key element, or
No,
what was the excuse there?
The auditor's opinion. In the transmittal letter, I indicated that we had agreed to provide that, in that this was a new area for Deloitte & Touche, our internal auditors. It did take them considerable time to do the necessary research to perform that function properly. So therefore, as soon as I had the auditor's opinion and worked with them as far as the audit, I provided that information to Mr. Espasto on the 4th of January.
Now, Mr. Espasto, remind me, the auditor's opinion. I read through the staff report. I should have marked it better than I did.
It was our determination in the letter that we sent on January 24th that the auditor's opinion was deficient. It lacked certain requirements within your regulations that we were checking off. And the January 24th letter asked for that additional detail. The packet that was received this Monday has another auditor's letter in there, but I'm unable to make the determinations on my own if it does comply. That's where the interim counsel will assist.
Okay. Very good.
There are several other aspects besides the auditor's opinion. The point I wanted to make was that the initial submission was November 15th. That was the due date. A complete submission wasn't first received until January 4th. In a spirit of cooperation and working with the cable company, and it's on the record in December, I recommended that you toll the process for 90 days and we work together rather than rejecting the application. My concern was that by tolling the process and establishing a 90-day review period, that the regs provided for new rates to automatically take effect. And that was the concern. We are now past that point.
We're past that point. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. Mr. Calhoun, did you want to comment on this? Bill Calhoun, you want to let it go? Okay. Going on to items, let's see.
Do you need a motion to cancel?
We do need a motion
Yes,
to
you have
cancel the hearing.
a hearing pending. You should cancel that to be rescheduled at a time in the future.
Second.
Moved and seconded to close. Who had the motion?
Mr. Costanis.
Mr. Costanis, Mrs. Cullen. Please call roll for a vote.
Cox.
Aye.
Pratt.
Aye.
Costanis.
Aye.
Collin.
Yes.
Panay.
Aye.
Dickinson.
Aye.
Toby Johnson.
Yes.
Motion
Item
carries.
7, community programming funding allocation estimates. Action required to adopt resolution approving 1994-95 estimates.
Members, in 1988, you secured a settlement for $15.3 million from Sacramento Cable Television. At that time, as I was assistant to Mr. Smith, you eyeballed Mr. Smith, who then eyeballed me, that we had to manage that $15.3 million through a set of criteria until settlement payments resumed from Sacramento Cable. Those settlement payments resumed on time, on schedule, last October. We now have revenue coming into the Cable Commission, and your policy on restrictions and limitations on managing the funds has expired. Part of that policy was what would be allocated for community programming. Last year, you approved master grant agreements that require you each March to advise your community programming grantees of an estimate, of an allocation estimate for the upcoming fiscal year, that is the upcoming July to June. We don't have a policy in place now as to what those allocations should be. So what I've provided you with is some historical perspective on what the allocations have been while the constraints have been on, and referred you to the fact that in last September, the analysis of fund balance available was approximately $1.7 million. That concludes my comments.
Okay, members have questions of Mr. Esposito?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, Terry?
The item of discussion, however, is the 1993-94 budget, is it not, and not the $1.7 million fund balance?
No, the item of discussion is the providing estimates to your grantees of what their 94-95 allocation will be.
Have we changed the rate at all since 1991, Rich? What is it? Have they've been
as shown on page 2, there have only been minor adjustments relative to the performance grant program that we tested last year. And by the way, I'm recommending that we sunset the performance grant program. So for the last 3 years, the aggregate amount and only minor adjustments in the allocation percentages have changed. I'm sorry, the aggregate amount has not changed, and there have been only very small changes in the allocation.
Mr. Chair, as a matter of procedure, we've not discussed the allocation of the $1.7 million. Is that correct? That is, we've not made that determination.
Not yet. That's correct. Rich?
I provided you with a staff report on the fund balance in September. There was no recommended action. You took none. You have been informed of what's available. There's been no change to that report since September, but there's been no action.
Yeah, we just haven't.
It's an open issue. Yeah. You just moved on.
Would you just make sure I get a new copy of that, Rich, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any further questions by members?
Mr. Johnson, I'm interested in seeing some increase in the grantees' allocations. I know that the $1.7 million has not been discussed yet, but we cannot ask the grantees to continue at the same level of 1991. I would hope that we would find some level of increase so that they can continue to do the good things they've been doing for this community. And I don't know what percentage is, but I just can't see continuing at the same level since 1991.
But I indicate that it would seem to me one of the prudent things we would do is say we're not going below this. We're giving this to them as the this is what you can expect. And then if you want to get into a discussion of the competing demands that might be made towards the 1.7 or where you might want to allocate that, that should be a separate and apart from this. I looked at this as saying you can expect grantees at least this. This is the expectation. And then if you want policy discussions about the other monies and maybe jurisdictional input on that from our parent or the bodies we serve on, I should say, besides this, and what that might be, that should be the subject of a different hearing.
Well,
at least I think so. We ought to bring that forward as one whole.
When would you suggest that we bring it back for consideration and hearing?
My recollection of your grant agreements would be that you'd have to do it in March. You've already scheduled a special meeting 2 weeks hence. If that provided you additional time, you could add that to the special meeting calendar.
Would that be in keeping with the will of the commission? Yeah,
March 15th.
So what would we be doing? You would prepare a proposal for us, or how would that work, members?
Well, that's what I'm curious about.
That's what you're looking for, some instructions.
I'm saying, in other words, you'd have to find a spot if you wanted to accomplish, which is perhaps, look at what kind of other funds there might be there to build into this. There's only one source to go to it, correct?
That's right.
And to do that, you would have to make some policy decisions vis-a-vis. Is there anything else that money is going to be requested for? I don't know. And it seems to me that we need to set some, maybe ask Rich to come back with some of those guidelines.
But the minimum proposal today is $1,038,000
yes.
distributed among the
listed
5 listed
They know they're not going to get less than that.
Not going to get less than that.
Maybe we should hear from the public and see what.
And then, but I think the motion is it's not a motion, but the thought is sound that we then come back and talk about whether or not there can be any part of the $1.7 million distributed among the 5 grantees.
We do have a fairly good collection of slips from various distinguished members of our community who want to speak on this when we're all through with our discussion. Any further discussion with regard to the...
Yeah,
yes, Terry.
right now,
I would like to make sure that when we have the discussion of the fund balance, that we consider where we're going to be going in the next 2-3 years, and that should be a part of the staff's report back to us. I think that although I'm interested in seeing a slight increase for the grantees, I'm more concerned about where we're going to be in a year or two from now, and I'm not. So I want to make sure we know what the source of funds will be in the future. So when we have that policy discussion, we know that. I think that's essential that we have that ironed down. But I would like, I concur. We ought to at least be at the 1.38 at least for the grantees.
Have any other comments, Rich?
Let me clarify what you're requesting of staff, or what you've said. The policy direction you provided so far is to provide you with a list of policy alternatives above the 1.038 base that would consider the status of the fund balance available for your commission, and some analysis of how that fund balance may change in the future?
That's correct.
Yes.
That seems to be the general consensus, right?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Ms. Collins made a point, and I think it's appropriate at this time, since there are fewer members of the City Council in this body. If we go back to our respective bodies and talk this in open session, maybe the Tuesday before the 18th, I think we can get it on our agenda to have a discussion about these funds, to see what the rest of the other members might want to do. As just a suggestion to bring forward from those discussions with the Galt City Council, the Board of Soups, and the City Council of Sacramento.
We do have letters from last year, so we know what kind of letters might come forward. And I think that's one of the policy decisions that we're going to have to face as a commission. And I think that we should, that obviously should be on there. There are some policy decisions the commission's going to have to make over that.
It's your guidance that the staff report wait until after the City Council and other bodies have discussed it? Or do you want?
I would think so, because then you'll have guidance from the bodies.
Or a sense of their other options?
Yeah, exactly. I would think that would be most advisable, especially from the City Council's perspective.
You're talking now about the $1.7 million, not the
$1.7 million. I think we move forward. Well, let's hear from the audience. Maybe there's some other parameters here that we can work on as well.
Procedurally, is it your intent that you as councilman will raise that issues in your jurisdictions, or are you expecting staff to bring that to your?
Well, either way, I think we can raise it and put it on our agendas, but we'd probably want our executive director there to give the brief on it.
Is your intent that you as councilman will raise that issues in your jurisdictions, or are you expecting staff to bring that to your?
Well, either way, I think we can raise it and put it on our agendas, but we'd probably want our executive director there to give the brief on it, because there will be questions, different questions.
So you better schedule yourself over there.
Toby?
Go to Folsom.
Yes, Rich. Excuse me.
The 1.7 million, I thought, has a decision been made whether that's to go to the cities?
No, that's what we're discussing.
You'd be eligible too.
I thought you were discussing allocating the money to the different television companies.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, just the CBOs.
I probably dozed off for a minute or two.
Yeah. Well, we'll go to the audience now. Beverly Sullivan, Beverly O. Sullivan.
Sorry, Ms. Sullivan left a note. Oh, she is here. Sorry.
I'm still here.
Okay.
She didn't want to go away for fear she might be lost.
Well, I'm totally confused now, so please bear with me.
We have 1.7 million that we're going to consider for allocation to various eligible candidates for.
What is the eligible?
Well,
what is the
but the
criteria for that?
apportioning of it has not been determined.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, exactly. The membership of all the representative bodies, the City Council of Sacramento, Galt City Council, Folsom City Council, the Board of Supervisors of the county would evaluate this money and give recommendations to this body, their commission, on what to do with it.
On what to do with it. Okay, well, what I have submitted, which you have in front of you, for you to take a look at is, I'm an independent producer, and this, basically, if I'm confused, please forgive me, but this just came up like 2 weeks ago, so this is like trying to throw together a development package within 2 weeks. Basically, what we're trying to do is put together a show featuring deadbeat parents. Now, I don't like using that word. That's not the word that we like to use, but that gets my point across. This is a program that is done by the Contra Costa District Attorney's Office, and before they even ran their first show, they had a realization of over $16,000 in revenue reimbursement from non-custodial child support owing parents who did not want themselves to be featured on the television. So basically it's a community service project, half-an-hour show that would, in conjunction with the district attorney's office, which you have a letter from Steve White, district attorney, endorsing this project. I'm coming to the commission and trying to find out if there is any funding available to do this project. And that's why I'm here.
Could I respond just a little bit by saying that we had a program grant, but the recommendation here is that we not have the performance grants this next year. I would think that since those performance grant monies have already been folded into the basic budget of the other of Access, SECC, KVIE, KXPR, SMCTC. I don't know whether they would have any funds available to do a program like that, but I would think that certainly within the broad confines of what we're talking about bringing forward at our next meeting, we could certainly look at a limited performance grant program again, I would assume, but they still have to go on to one of the Access channels. But I'm willing to look at that. I don't know if realistically there's any hope for doing it. But.
Well, I realized when I came this evening that this was going to be a long shot. But when you're going for underwriting and you're looking for grants and that type of thing, you take any shot that you can get. So
we appreciate your being here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hirschberger. John, you're next on deck. Following Mr. Hirschberger will be David Vaca. Following David Vaca will be Ron Cooper, and we're going to ask you to keep your remarks down to 3 minutes, if you will.
I am John Hirschberger from KVIE, and Dave Vaca, I believe, had to leave as chair of SECC, and in his place, Liz Rhodes, executive director, and we are making a joint presentation.
Okay.
I want to say that on our behalf that I think we are in awe of your stamina and extremely grateful that you're willing to sit through the whole agenda and deal with our what we think of as our agenda.
We find it difficult to get compliments, so we're willing to stay all night.
I think we both want to take the opportunity, and Diane is passing out among you the joint program guide that Channel 7 and Channels 21 and 22 KVIE and SECC are putting out, and I think this is a physical manifestation of the partnership that we have been developing over a period of time, and we're very proud of that. And this is the third in our joint third episode in our joint program guide. Another manifestation of that partnership is on the back page, Math for All Plus, and this is a joint project that we're involved with. It will show up on both KVIE Channel 7 and 21 and 22. I think that what we are proposing, and we did send you earlier today, and I believe Diane just passed out a one-sheet copy, is consistent with the direction that you were discussing moments ago with regard to staff's recommendation of sunsetting the performance grant, the $104,000 that was essentially carved out of the grantees' allocations at some earlier point. There was no recommendation, as we understand it, for what to do with that $104,000. Our proposal would be that you add on to that recommendation using that $104,000 plus a little bit to restore the grants to the grantees, the cable programmers, to their 91, 92 levels. There are many other ways many other suggestions that we could make, but it seems to us that that's a very simple thing that you might be able to accomplish today. And then with regard to the other revenues, the $1.7 million plus other funds that might be forthcoming from future settlements, we are eager to see that used for the original intent of those funds, which is community programming to support
the money came out of the pockets of the subscribers initially, and we would like to see that used for cable subscribers' community programming, and we would like to have a role. We, the community programmers, would like to have some role in helping devise how that might happen, although we fully understand that's not going to happen today. It will happen at some later point.
You timed that well. Your replacement is standing beside you.
I thought they were going together, Mr. Chair.
We're trying to conserve time.
Oh, that means we get 6 minutes, doesn't it? I am Liz Rhodes. I'm the Executive Director of the Sacramento Educational Cable Consortium. And first of all, Dave Vaco apologizes. He had a 6 o'clock
Look how long
meeting.
you get. No, I corrected it.
Also, Ron Cooper had to leave, and he asked that I relay to you that he is very much in support of the proposal that is in front of you. The big thing, in addition to what John has said, that we do want to stress to you is that all of the grantees are very interested in working cooperatively and not being in a competitive situation. We feel that we can accomplish a tremendous amount together as opposed to competing for a pot of money. So we are very interested in working with you in any way that we can in devising a process that will ensure an equitable disbursement of those funds. We would like to be a part of that and are willing to do anything that we can and seek your direction of that. And we appreciate the support that you have given us in the past. And then just finally, that we do appreciate, Mr. Costanis, your comments about an adjustment from 3 years ago to cover the additional cost that everyone knows of doing business. Thank you.
Okay, tell Mr. Cooper and
Thank
Mr.
you very
Baca we're
much.
glad that they
So,
gave up the
just a
time.
question, Mr. Chair, for
Congratulations,
clarification.
by the way.
I have a question for clarification. What you're asking for is that we actually put the performance grants into each of the base budgets.
Yeah, we did that.
That's right, because that will take us back to our 91, 92
So
funding.
what are you
levels.
asking for that's different from this?
9490, if I may
Well, it
interrupt,
takes- yeah.
requested 9495 budget be increased by $104,084.
Yeah.
That's the request. Is that correct?
I
Liz?
think the point of confusion is that you may have already assumed that you were going to do that.
For 93, 94.
Well, for 94, 95.
94, 95,
From the
yeah.
conversation earlier, you said, well, we sort of accept the concept that we're going to go forward with the 1.038 million. But it was not clear from the staff's recommendation exactly where that 100,000 was going to go. And our proposal is that it go back from whence it came. That is to say, you carved about 10% out of each grantee's allocation, and we're suggesting you simply put that, just restore it back to the way it was.
John, did you look at the chart?
Yes.
Okay. It doesn't restore it all the way back to the 91, 92, but it certainly...
That's true, and I oversimplified,
Yeah.
And that's why we agree with Terry Costanis that you put the 10% back, and then hopefully you can add a little bit for the sake of inflation.
No, nobody else. We want a motion.
Move to take the performance grant of $104,084, combine it with the entitlement grant, divide among the 5 grantees, and provide that the $1,038,000 as a minimum to those 5 grantees for 94.95.
What you're saying is, if I understand you right, is that your starting base is the 91, 92, and/or 92, 93 numbers.
You want to go to that instead of the one that's over here with the 93, 94?
Which would
You
be-
just want to
Staff,
go back to the
staff made
91,
no
92.
staff made no recommendation.
I understand.
We just said
And
what was there.
my
Your
recommendation
recommendation
is-
now is to start from that base.
No,
and
my
then take-
recommendation is we take the entitlement of 456, 758, and then that's in the 93, 94 category. And then we add the performance grant on top of that, which is $1,038,334. In other words, Access would get $496,871 for the year, 94, 95 as a minimum.
Oh, I'm sorry. Now you're saying that the 93, 94 total becomes your base.
Did you get the performance grant, John, in 1993, 94?
Just briefly, the reason we're suggesting we go back to the 91, 92 numbers is that in the performance grant process, different grantees got different amounts of money on a competitive basis. And we think it would not be particularly equitable to simply carry that forward as a part of the.
And so what you're
allocation.
suggesting is the $1,038,000 plus the 104.
No, you
I believe
go back.
Mr. Hershberger is
You go
saying.
back to those figures that say 91, 92.
I guess we're proposing you take the 91, 92
Which is
numbers
And use those as the base.
and use that as the base.
Plus you want the entitlement, or the performance grant of 104,000.
That is-
The
that's
91,
already in the base.
92 is already in the.
I see. All right.
To get back to it, they carved the money out of the 91, 92
All right.
in order to create the performance grant.
I
We're suggesting
understand.
you simply put it back.
Then my motion would be then to take the base from 91, 92.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, call a roll for a vote. Moved and seconded to,
Cox,
Aye.
Pratt,
Aye.
Costanis.
Aye.
Collin,
Yes.
Panay,
Aye.
Dickinson.
Aye.
Toby Johnson.
yes.
Motion carries.
Item 8, Sacramento Cable Affirmative Action Report, which is a receive and file item that was brought forward by your request, Josh.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I have reviewed this report. As is stated, we still don't have enough information upon which to base a conclusion. So I would like to instruct our executive director to go back and try to obtain more information from the cable operator.
Could I say along the line that the city's affirmative action officer, I was going at I was looking at the way that the city's affirmative action officer set it out and also talked about what they feel the components of a plan should be if you really want to look at a plan. And so I was keying in on that, and I assumed that that's part of what you meant. is
Exactly.
that if their plan really does include this. In fact, one of the things that was said was that the plan as submitted would not meet the guidelines that they felt they should have been submitting anyway to whoever requires them to
FCC,
submit it,
right.
although we don't require it. But I'm assuming you mean along the lines that are
Exactly.
laid out in here. Okay.
Sacramento Cable did provide a copy, I believe, of their 91, 92, or 90. It was a mix. It was hard to tell which date it was, but an affirmative action plan around the holidays, and that is on file now in the office. But without commission direction on your desires, that was not redistributed to the city and county affirmative action officers for additional
Would
analysis.
you like to do that?
I think we
Send it
should
back.
one or the other. Is there any possibility that we have some money in our budget to pay for that analysis so that we don't get either the county or the city off kilter with their staffing? Is that possible?
As just advised, you have a fund balance. It may trigger, depending on amount, a budget transfer.
Well, I think we should direct that the staff go back to either one of those. I don't know if we need both, and it makes no difference to me which affirmative action officers, so the city's fine, and that we instruct staff to go back and have Mr. Chong analyze this and bring back a report to us, and that we would reimburse the city from the commission budget.
That's a
Within
motion.
reason.
I'll second it.
Within reason.
Within
been
reason.
moved.
Yeah, I love that, within reason. They can't just run up a big budget, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the motion then is to go to the city to have an update or update of the community, or the affirmative action budget of SCT. Call a roll for a vote.
Cox,
Aye.
Pratt,
Aye.
Costanis.
Aye.
Collin,
Yes.
Panay,
Aye.
Dickinson.
Aye.
Toby Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next is the election of chairperson for the 1994-95 year.
If you're ready to entertain, I make a motion.
Okay, what's the motion?
I'd move Mr. Panay as chair.
Second.
Moved and seconded to have Mr. Panay serve as chair. Mr. Yee expressed to me that he didn't necessarily want to succeed to the job, so if we can have any other nominations, I'd entertain them. No other nominations coming forward, I move the nominations be, or I rule the nominations are closed and would call for a vote.
Cox,
Aye.
Pratt,
Aye.
Costanis.
Aye.
Collin,
Yes.
Panay,
Aye.
Dickinson.
Aye.
Toby Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And I
How
would
about
move
vice chair?
Roger Dickinson as vice chair.
Second.
Motion and a second for Roger, Collin, and Cox. And with that, anyone else want to nominate other parties? If not, I'd rule that nominations are closed and call a roll for a vote.
Cox,
Aye.
Pratt,
Aye.
Costanis.
Aye.
Collin,
Yes.
Panay?
Aye.
Dickinson?
Aye.
Toby Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we are ready to go, I guess, to Mr. Espasto's general decision, but before we do, I'd like to call on the two parties that wanted to speak.
Mr. Chairman, you have item 10, the franchisee update, if you're...
Item 10?
Oh, excuse me, I
Didn't they say they
skipped over that. I went right to, looked at 11. Yeah, franchisee, excuse me, Mr. Rooker, are you going to speak, or is Kevin, who's going to speak on item 10, the licensee update? Oh, Brian, right. I didn't see, I was looking up the other aisle. You should sit over with your other buddies up there.
Well, I was, but I had to go out to make extended babysitting arrangements, so I'm back now, Mr. Chairman.
I hope you called my wife while you were out. She's waiting supper.
I hope you called my wife with babysitting.
Well, I'm not sure that we're allowed to provide babysitting services for members of the commission these days.
No,
so.
just called her to console her, and maybe have the two.
I don't want him calling my wife. So.
Thank you. We will keep this very short. As a matter of fact, Darby Patterson had a fabulous dog and pony show about our recent terrific event, A World of Difference at San Juan High School. She put together a very entertaining tape, but she thought you'd all much rather be earlier at tape. Therefore, sometime in the future, we'd be happy to show you some part of that. Our presentation is very, very short. First of all, we're proud to announce that RAI, Italian programming, is on the International Channel Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. That's 10 hours a week of Italian programming for members of our community. We're proud to have that on. Our customer service report is the major issue to bring up, and that also will be very short. As we've said in recent reports, we've been averaging between 180 and 200,000 calls a month since the enactment of the Cable Act. We thought that would have ended much sooner than it did, but in fact, we're still getting massive phone volume. However, in the last month, that phone volume has subsided somewhat. And along with the heroic efforts of our 93 customer service representatives, we have now dramatically reduced call waiting times. We received we completed 167,000 telephone transactions in the month of February, and during that month had an average wait on the phones, average speed of answer of 27 seconds. We've had a discussion with Mr. Espasto recently about the nature of defining which calls should be included or excluded. If one were to exclude all of our automatic answering calls, our audio response unit and automatic number identification calls, then the number is still only 37 seconds, which we think is a terrific improvement over the 2 or 3 minute averages. We're not satisfied with that. We are very confident that in the weeks ahead we will continue to drive that number farther down. And on behalf of all of our customer service representatives, again, we're very happy for that number. The one day that the FCC, for example, announced the new cable rules, our call volume jumped way up again, and we had a 50-second average wait, and we are anticipating some more excitement in the months ahead as we provide the additional rate rollback, and we're sure that will generate many, many more phone calls. But we're very proud of the performance of our customer service staff, and our manager, Esther Priestley, was here. She left a couple of hours ago, and she wanted to tell you herself. But that pretty much is our report. If there are any questions on any issues, I'd be happy to answer them at this point.
Very interesting report. Mr. Costanis has a question.
Yes, Brian, I sent the Cable Commission and I copied you a discussion about the information superhighway and when it comes to Sacramento. I'd like to request that you respond in some brief way, possibly, sure, and give me some information so that I can discuss this further with the Commission in terms of possibly putting this on the agenda at a future time so that we could start talking about these newer technologies. Did you? I imagine you did receive a copy of that.
No, I haven't, although Darby has a copy of the letter,
right,
so I haven't myself. She did mention that she did receive a letter, and what we did discuss briefly was when we looked at the agenda, we looked at realistically how effectively we'd be able to do that today. I'd be happy, as well as the rest of our staff, to answer any questions or in general, in a general way today. We have videotape and experts and other things to provide, so we can either at an upcoming commission meeting, in addition to any questions you have today, provide a brief presentation, or if it's your pleasure and the pleasure of other commissioners to have a more extended session where we can bring in our corporate engineering people and hardware and programming vendors and really take a significant amount of time to give a complete presentation on all the technological issues. We're enthusiastic about doing that at any time.
Well, before taking up a lot, take up a lot of people's time, I'd like to have you present us some options. We'll discuss it with staff. We'll discuss it with the chair of the commission and possibly calendar and a future agenda item. But at least let's take a look and see what's there first before we, spend a lot of time with it.
Sure.
Okay, I would just like to add a word of caution. This is a highly competitive field. There are a lot of other people who are interested in entering into this very competitive field. I would not want us to do anything as a commission that gets us into a very competitive field, looking like we're favoring moving in one direction or another. And so I would suggest that if this commission is going to entertain those kind of presentations, that we invite everyone who's interested in that field to be here at the same time.
Sure.
I just think that
more the merrier.
That is a much more efficient way for the commission to handle its business.
Lots of balloons and much fireworks.
Sure.
We'll have it. Okay, we'll look forward to that.
Was that a decision? Is it your decision then to request other providers in this information
I don't know.
superhighway?
What is the will of the commission? Do you want to extend this?
I fully agree. I think we should have as many providers as possible. I myself, as a member of the commission, have been doing my own investigation on wireless networks, on wireless cable systems, and I have a store of information that I could provide and have those people come and testify as well. I think it would be good.
You're really readying yourself for the end of your career as a city councilman.
Well,
Now,
I
if we
figured
wanted
you
to
have to go out in style.
Yeah,
If you're going to be the new chair, then one of the things, if you were to put together a commission-sponsored workshop even, I don't know whether you should
That might be a
discuss
good
that
idea.
with, and make sure that the people who are really interested in entering into this market are all invited to participate. I know that probably organizations like the League of Cities and other organizations have also been trying to get this information out to local government, and certainly as the Cable Commission, if we're going to play a role in that, it has to be one that is absolutely.
I agree.
Point out that H.R. 3636 passed out of subcommittee night before last, and it lacks local government provisions. At that League of Cities meeting yesterday, it was commented that we could end up, local government could end up being roadkill on the information superhighway. So I'd like to offer that we bring you up to date on the current pace of federal legislation.
Good.
It looks like 3636 will be into a full committee write-up, markup within a week. It's moving very, very quickly with very strong push by the administration.
Why don't you come back with your recommendation as to when to stage this meeting and what should be included?
Thank you. And if there are any specific questions in terms of our plans or our technological vision or what we're doing in this system, for example, last month Mr. Pane had a specific question about scrambling. We'd be happy either at this forum or in writing or any way you want to provide thorough answers to those questions. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
I have another question. Now,
Okay, Terry.
Brian, I don't know if you want to respond to this or Mr. Ruckert, but I have a question regarding the FCC order to reduce rates by 7%. Do you intend to do that immediately, tomorrow? You anticipate not reducing rates by 7%? What is your response to that FCC ruling?
Well, as always, we will comply to the letter with the FCC law, and as Rich was alluding to previously, there are some specific formulas that the FCC is coming out with in the next week or two that will define exactly for an individual cable system exactly how that will apply in each area. I think one can expect a rate reduction on the basic rate in Sacramento. But in terms of even today, the exact formula as to how the ultimate rate is determined has not been released by the FCC. And last week, I believe, they said it would take 2 weeks for them to do that, and that should be sometime next week.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have two people who want to speak on this matter of item 1, which is Mr. Espasto's matter for decision. Mr. Chris Carrier.
Members of the Commission, I'm here today to speak on behalf of your Executive Director, Mr. Richard Espasto, and to urge you to retain him in his position. To those of us who have been following the SAC Cable versus Cable Commission feud, one can only draw the conclusion that Mr. Espasto's job was put in danger, and Mr. Blair was removed from his day-to-day role on the Commission's staff because they're doing too good of a job of regulating SAC Cable. That's right, they're doing too good of a job of regulating SAC Cable and making them behave. At the last meeting, it was mentioned that Sacramento was the cable litigation capital of the world. Critics of Commission staff have said, to quote Commissioner Cox, they regulate in a firestorm. Well, they do, but that's not the staff's doing, that's SAC Cable's doing. I would like to point out there are worse things than regulating in a firestorm, and knuckling under to an unregulated monopoly is one of them. Let's go over some of the nasty things SAC Cable has pulled over the last year. First, the great rescrambling. SAC Cable claimed it needed to do this rescrambling to comply with the Cable Act of 1992 when, in fact, they could have complied by retrapping and/or a channel realignment. Whether they choose to admit it or not, SAC Cable rescrambled and installed converter boxes over the objections of tens of thousands of their subscribers who didn't want them because SAC Cable wanted the ability to sell pay-per-channel and pay-per-view services to households that can't get them in a trapped format and that didn't want them anyway. Although the Commission had no jurisdiction to stop this, complaints from cable consumers around the country with other systems having the same problem has prodded the FCC into various actions to make scrambling less obtrusive and to encourage broadcasting in clear. Secondly, the trapped limited basic incident. SAC Cable charged customers for 3 channels they weren't receiving. After Mr. Espasto and Mr. Blair caught him at it, they admitted it and provided refunds. Does anyone seriously believe that SAC Cable, out of the goodness of its heart, would have fessed up and refunded the overcharge? I think not. I believe that SAC Cable thought they could get away with it because it's only $1.17 a month per subscriber, and who really cares about home shopping? When this charge generated to SAC Cable about $25,000 a month for services they were not providing. Then there's that famous 1 penny error on the rate filing that SAC Cable has been hemming and hawing about. As you know, an error of 1 cent on the rate filing multiplied by 52 channels, 225,000 subscribers, 12 months in a year, 29 years left in the franchise, works out to a present value of about $25 million. That 1 penny became 2.5 pennies. Why now, at this time of all times, would we want to remove from your staff the most knowledgeable and pro-consumer oriented people in this rather arcane field of knowledge? When Mr. Espasto discovered the 1 cent error in SAC Cable's favor, he saved the cable consumers of Sacramento a sum of money equal to his salary for over 500 years. I call that a good deal. I might also point out that the Commission has had other reasons to go after SAC Cable that they have not pursued and which SAC Cable could be financially penalized for. On the evening of October 1, 1993, a large number of customers were unable to receive a number of full basic channels. That's an outage for which you get a free day of service. And worse, for a couple of hours that evening, the Playboy channel was broadcast to all customers in the clear. Not to mention the fact it's been 6 months since SAC Cable has been in compliance with either the federal or this Commission's guidelines for hold time and customer service response time. A month out of compliance is one thing. 6 in a row is another. It's clear from the record that SAC Cable is an out-of-control monopoly. Commissioner Collin is right. We're swimming with sharks.
Chris, we got to close down now if you want.
1 sentence.
1 sentence.
Mr. Espasto is our shark repellent. Let's not throw him overboard.
Thank you. Next party is Marie Jackson. You've been very patient sitting here all afternoon.
Thank you. I'm not too happy with you folks right now. When I have more time in another day, I'll talk to you about other issues, but let me cut to the quick. To the people who work for Sacramento Cable and your commission staff, I salute you. You do a good job, you make an effort, and you do the best you can. Man, to you commissioners, remember the FCC and Congress is writing the rule book, not you and not me. Some of you want to blame your staff for being a little too nasty and mean. Let me remind you that the cable companies have national lobbies that they can fight with Washington with, and the state of California statewide lobbies they can fight with. We as consumers have very little to fight with as it is. You are our elected officials. We count on you. If you have problems with policy for this community, set it, do it. That's supposed to be your job. You haven't done it. Please set the rules to make sure that the staff knows what they need to do, so we know what to do when we go to them to see, can we get service from them or not? Set the rules clearly so everybody in the community, companies, everyone alike, knows what the deal is. And finally, as I go quickly, please remember, we count on you. You are our elected officials. If there were a consumer lobby to do this job, that would be fine. It's not happening. If there was a national competitive lobby in this county, all holds barred, I'm all for that. I want it to happen. It hasn't happened yet. I hope that Sac Cable and the others who are here do the job and get it done. Most of the time, I'm happy with them. Sometimes I'm not. I'd like to see them upgrade their channel capacity and work at that. And someday I'd like a discussion on that one. Meanwhile, the law is here. FCC is rewriting the rule book as we speak. Congress is rewriting 3 bills in the hopper. Your exec director mentioned only one. There are 2 more. Get this community alive. Telecommunication is here. It's not going to go away. Your constituents are dealing with it head on right now. Please get the policy straight. Get us all involved. We want to be involved. There are many of us who do care. And in future, if you're going to have executive session meetings, which I have no problem with, please remember, we, the public, want to testify before you, but 6:30 at night is a little bit silly. Thank you.
We agree with you. We're sorry that we did spend so much time, and I possibly should have apologized earlier, but the matter that we had required quite a bit of exchange between the various principals involved, and did take time, and we're sorry that we delayed you so long. With that, Rich, Mr. Elam had proposed a motion.
First, Mr. Elam, would you repeat what you said before? Would you go through it so I have? I was writing as you spoke.
The motion adopted offered you a contract, an employment contract for a term of 18 months that would, in effect, entitle you to an additional 12-month term, a total in effect of 30 months. Should the commission not notify you 90 days in advance of the end of the first contract that it will not be renewing your agreement. That contract would be at your current rate of pay. It would contain a clause that you could be terminated during the term of the contract, alternatively either for cause or without cause. But if you were terminated without cause, you would be entitled to a payment of the balance of your salary owing on that contract through the end of its term. It would also contain a clause to the effect that one of your duties, one of your principal duties, is to enforce the cable regulations within this community. Have I left a term out?
30 days.
No, I think it's...
I believe that's,
No, you
I believe that was
covered
it.
well. Covered it well. Okay.
It is a regular, straight employment contract, the kind I recommend for employment of most executive directors in this county of independent entities.
You have enough information to make a decision
I have
today?
some questions, Mr. Chairman. First, is it my understanding that this is as offered? There are no items that could be discussed or nothing here that's negotiable?
Well, this is a motion, and I think for that reason it's limited possibly beyond this point.
No,
the motion.
If Mr. Esposito were to accept the concept and indicate his willingness to enter into such an agreement, I believe your next motion would be to delegate to Mr. Smith and Mr. Edgar authority to negotiate the specific terms with him. I believe that
was the intent.
Yes, that was the intent.
Several things, and I'm going to reserve an opportunity at least for a minute to make a
We'll give you
personal
5 minutes. We've been
personal comment. This is a difficult and a fast-moving decision. Yes, I'm inclined to request that we move further into negotiating the terms of this contract, but with these thoughts. I'd like the word current taken out of Mr. Elam's statement relative to salary and compensation. I'd like to negotiate and or discuss that. Secondly, I would like to know...
This was with reference to current salary as being the...
Right. I would offer respectfully a motion that said subject to discussion and compensation subject to negotiation.
Is that... okay, go ahead. Continue to talk.
That was agreeable. That was...
Secondly, the reference to the words cause, for cause, without cause did not clarify for me the decision level with which that would be made. I am concerned, and I'll come back to this in a second, that this commission has been on the margin of deciding what it wants to be. And my preference would be not to have the definition of cause or without cause hinge on that margin. Right now, that margin is 5-3. Is the number of votes required to make a cause or without cause decision something that could be negotiated?
I don't know that it can be. I think we require that kind of a vote for all of our... a quorum of 5 is a decision, isn't it? I don't know, Mr. Elam.
I don't think we specifically discussed that. We can't specify it now. I think...
The contract could probably contain a supermajority vote requirement if that's what he's asking.
I think there's a supermajority.
It would be legal
terms,
to do that within the terms of the contract. But the commission has not considered that.
We've not discussed that.
I probably would make a recommendation to you on that kind of an issue, and I'd rather do it privately.
Well, they'll be talking. Go ahead, Rich. What additional points do you need clarifying?
That's my response to the proposal, with the opportunity to comment separately for a moment, if I may.
Okay, so it would be your acceptance with the understanding you have opportunity to further negotiate?
To negotiate compensation and the terms and conditions, or the terms that go in, the decision factors going into the word cause and without cause. Again, because of my concern of the political climate of this body.
So we would, until at least next month, await a final action on this.
I thought we were going to decide this now, Mr. Chair. Just a question for our council. I'd like to decide it now. On the issue of cause and not cause, is it possible to strike that language totally?
To include it, you mean?
To strike it.
Eliminate it.
Eliminate it from my
You could
motion.
adopt a new motion that includes the first condition that he asked for, which is negotiable salary, and not the second, yes.
Yeah. Those are the only things?
Right. It isn't my request.
Specify for Mr. Spasto what cause might be.
Yeah, it isn't my request to remove that language. It's my request to define by negotiation what constitutes that decision, how many votes.
Let's just talk about cause.
Cause would be loosely defined as a failure to perform assigned duties or neglective duty, which is about one and the same, or any other conduct which brings disreputable public concern upon the agency, primarily criminal conduct or other immoral conduct.
Well, Mr. Chair, I would be glad to amend my motion to specify that it would take, it would take 6 votes on this commission to remove executive director, and that we take out the word current of my motion and we leave it a rate of pay, and with the understanding there has never been, either in closed session or in open session, a motion to ever even think about terminating Mr. Espasto.
Okay.
And that understanding is implied in the motion.
See whether your second is in accord with that.
It would seem to me that what you really want to do is get those things onto the negotiating table, and that's what I assume the motion
Well,
is.
I just want to move this process so that we keep Mr. Espasto, as everyone has agreed to, and understand that there's never been a motion to do anything else.
Yeah.
I understand the language.
Okay, I think we have to reconsider the motion and the initial.
Well,
motion.
I suppose I would move to
I think that
reconsider.
do we need a motion on that? Because if we do, I will concur as the second in terms of moving forward, that those are other parameters that can be discussed in the negotiating.
I would request a further executive session, 5 minutes, before you adopt that motion.
Okay, is there any disagreement on that? If
No,
not,
but maybe
we'll-
Mr. Espasto, he had a comment to make. Maybe that will help
Were
our
those
deliberations.
the main comments?
What I've responded to you so far is response to the things Mr. Elam listed, but I would like to make some broad comment, if I could, for a minute, just some other
Go ahead,
things.
please.
Why don't you do that?
I don't get this opportunity very much. The last 9 months have been very difficult. This job has been very stressful. The issues, what we're going through, and I say, comment that the ordinance which establishes this entity, I believe, refers to us collectively as the commission, with you sitting as the board of directors. So I'll say that we, the commission, has had a very difficult time. As your senior staff person, it's been very, very hard to understand what it is you want to be or are and want to be. I'm going to take very seriously the words you said today, or just we're talking about your desire to regulate, and I'll do that as I have been, with the expertise, knowledge, and desire to serve the community in a professional, dedicated way. But I'm concerned that, as I said, it's been the stress has been very, very difficult. I have felt, perceived threats, whether you believe they have been implied or not implied or whatever. My feelings have been that each month since last November, my job status has been on the line. Whether or not that's how you felt, that's how I felt. And I hope we can get past that. We've talked about communications. I welcome the opportunity. I will welcome any input you have in terms of style or communications. But I'll close by saying that this job with the cable company we have in town, by its nature, is one that, especially as we move into the first time ever of rate regulation, that the regulated entity is not likely to be happy. And that makes this job real tough. Separately, because of the grand jury report yesterday, there's some work for the commission to do. And if we can come to terms on this employment agreement, I look forward to working with you on that. Thank you.
I don't know. I don't think we need to call for a comment. I think that the board pretty well stated themselves earlier today that, without exception, they wanted you to continue in your position, and they wanted to have a better structure to the employment relationship, and that's what has been accommodated by the motion Mr. Panay made and Mr. Collins seconded. Okay, with that, Mr. Elam, we'll go to executive session to meet as a body for whatever period of time we need, or 5 minutes, we hope.
Let's see those long legs.
Yeah.
Let's see if you can walk.
Kill me. Sacramento Metropolitan Tribal Commission is now back in session after a brief recess for purposes of an executive session. Again, we were discussing personnel matters, and with that, we'll go to Mr. Elam, who will assist us in the phrasing of a motion that we need.
Rather than amending your prior motion, why don't we just state a new one, which will include the changes Mr. Panay was speaking of. This would be a contract for a term of 18 months with a salary negotiable. That is, the salary will be prescribed in the contract, but it will be negotiated between Mr. Smith and Edgar and Mr. Espasto. The contract would be automatically renewed for a period of 12 months if notice of termination were not given 15 months into its term, that is 3 months before the end of its term. It would contain a provision indicating that one of the director's chief duties is to enforce the local cable regulations. It would contain a termination clause under which the executive director could be removed before the expiration of the term of the contract, either for cause or without cause, but if without cause, pursuant to payment of the salary owing during the balance of the term of the agreement. And whether the removal is for cause or without cause, it could be ordered only by an affirmative vote of 6 members of the commission. And I believe that's it.
That's the motion.
Do we need to reconsider this?
This is just a new motion.
That's just the
I was just trying to articulate.
So this just...
Well, let's do that. Rescind to move to rescind the first motion.
Okay, seconded to rescind the first motion. Please call roll for vote.
Cox.
Aye.
Pratt.
Aye.
Castanis.
Aye.
Collin.
Yes.
Panay.
Aye.
Dickinson.
Aye.
Toby Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And now the new
Now,
motion.
I'll move this motion, and with my understanding still in it that there has never been a vote in closed session or open session that would have removed Mr. Espasto from his position.
Mr. Collin, you said...
An accurate statement, yes.
Okay. Motion is second, as stated initially by Mr. Elam and supported by Mr. Panay's motion. Please call a roll for a vote.
Cox.
Aye.
Pratt.
Aye.
Castanis.
Aye.
Collin.
Yes.
Panay.
Aye.
Dickinson.
Aye.
Toby Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
It is understood that this contract will be brought back for your agenda of the special meeting.
Yes, March 18th.
That you expect it to be completed and signed by that time, and that
I hope
Messrs.
so.
Edgar and Smith will be negotiating the specific terms on your behalf.
Correct. That brings us to the last item of the day, which is public opportunity to discuss any matter that is not on the agenda. Are there audience members that would like to present any points to the commission? If not, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Pardon?
I did have a slip-in.
Oh, on matters not on the agenda? Okay, Mr. Calhoun.
I thought you were on here, Mr. Calhoun, and a little earlier.
Not on the agenda. I also put a slip in.
Oh, okay. Well, we're not out of session yet, and we'll hold until you.
I'll be very brief. The main reason that I showed up today is that I've been following the issues as I can derive them from the local media. And I contacted Mr. Espasto's office, and he sent me some information about how this all works. And my problem with the whole scene is the perception of the public that the commission that I depend on to protect my interests may not have been doing that. That was my perception. Whether that's true or not is another issue. If we don't have regulators on the commission that are pro-consumer, then we have the chickens watching the fox instead of the other way around. If we don't have complete and upfront discussion of all the issues in a public hearing other than the personnel matters, then whether or not they're legal or illegal is not relevant. It's all about perception. Something's going on that I need to be aware of, I should be made aware of. I didn't make any comment on the affirmative action statement because there's an update coming out on that that's going to be analyzed by the city and county staff. But I would like to just momentarily draw your attention to the fact that Sacramento Cable's affirmative action equal employment plan was non-existent, and it may be that their attitude about not really caring about having that kind of plan, and this is not, please don't take this personally, but it could be reflected in the membership of this commission. I would not exactly call this an affirmative action.
Mr. Calhoun, we're all elected, sir.
I understand that,
Represent various members of the Board of Supervisors, supervisorial districts, cities, and elsewhere.
I understand that. What I was leading to was that I might recommend, if it's at all possible, that the commission consider bringing on board 2 citizens from the community, 1 from the county and 1 from the city jurisdictions. And it could be done by lot, so that it would be about as fair as possible. The chances of getting somebody that had a political agenda would be very slim. Even if they were ex officio, at least to be sitting in a capacity to advise the commission on some citizen concerns.
I think this was discussed many years ago in early stages of the formation, and the general consensus of opinion was that the people on the commission should be directly accountable through the election process to the people of Sacramento County and Sacramento City and the small cities. Is that right, Isla? Is that the way you?
Right.
Is that right?
That may have been the decision at that
Yeah,
point. but,
at
this is-
this time, I don't know whether or not there's any problem in considering a change.
And I just think, again, to reiterate that I think perception is where it's at. I would like to feel confident that in the issues that the commission has to deal with, that my needs are being met, that my rights are being protected, and that at any time I have a question about something, I'm going to get a straight answer. Not that I haven't, but with all the things that are going on, I want to be able to say at some point down the road that my commission's taking care of my business for me, and we can put grand juries aside and all the slander that goes with that, take care of our business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments.
Move for adjournment.
And we are adjourned.
Yeah, mañana.